Welcome back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad to have you joining our show again tonight. We're always happy for people like you that are interested in what's happening in our cities, because it is important for good government that there be a flow of information back and forth from our city council members, from our city managers, from our city staff, and you, the people that live in our cities. So we want to encourage you that as you're watching our program tonight, that if you have questions of the people that are presenting information, that you get in contact with them, because we'll put that information down for you. Now, if you haven't watched our program before, each week we'll have someone on from one of the 9 cities in CCX's viewing areas, and occasionally people that address different aspects of things that affect our cities, which we're going to do tonight. Tonight we're very happy to have Senator Chris Eaton, who's in District 40 up at the north end of our CCX's viewing area, to give us some ideas and some thoughts about the legislature, the up and coming session. Now, when does the session start this year?
February 11th at noon.
And why don't you give a little background information to the people out there about kind of your time in the legislature and up in the northwest part? You're in Brooklyn Center, right?
Right, I live in Brooklyn Center. I took over this seat when we lost my senator, Linda Scheid. She had cancer, and they had a special election.
Right.
And I was elected in 2011. So I've been there. I'm coming into my 9th session, and I represent all of Brooklyn Center and the southern part of Brooklyn Park. And
so you've got a lot of experience in this area to see. You've seen a lot of changes happening, I bet.
Oh yeah, the district has changed a lot in the last 9 years. It's since I moved here in 1990. So the last 30 years, I've seen a lot of changes in population and in leadership. And,
right. So that's got to be valuable to you as a senator.
Yes. It's one of the reasons I like living here.
Now, we referenced the fact that the legislature does a lot of its work in committees.
Yes.
So I thought we should tell people a little bit about it. How many committees were there in the Senate?
The Senate has 21.
Okay. And can you tell us about the committees you're on?
I'm on the Senate Finance Committee, which meets more at the end of session when all the bills are coming through and we decide what we're going to spend the money on. And then I'm also on the Health and Human Services Finance Committee, and that's a pretty busy committee. And we, as a registered nurse, I do my best to stay on that committee and to try and impact areas. I worked primarily in mental health, but also worked community mental health, so I have a real interest in this home care issue. And and then I'm on the Environment Committee, and that encompasses also the legacy account. So we make the decisions on what gets paid out of the legacy funds, which can be quite a bit of money, and that's, that ends up being a lot of discussion too. So my main interests that I work on are the environment and healthcare, and with those kind of social justice issues that they impact, because you find that the poorer environmental conditions tend to be in the lower income areas, and the people where there's more diversity in the areas, they tend to have the be by the bus stops and, and where the where there's more contaminants. And then with healthcare, your income really does affect how you live, how your health is. If you're poorer, you have poorer health care.
That's true.
And tend to have more disease, shorter lifespans, maybe engage in more unhealthy behaviors like smoking and heavy drinking, or have mental health issues that a lot of times the medications with the mental illness cause diabetes. And so then you've got all the things that go with that, and with just all the issues that come around with not having the advantage of good health care.
So each of the committees deals with the bills for that issue, or general information, or?
Well, like for instance, my solar bill would have went through the Environment Committee, it would go through the Commerce Committee, it had to go through the State and Local Government Committee, it had to go through the Judiciary Committee, and so there's different parts of the bill that affect different committees.
Oh, sure.
So a bill can, usually it's a minimum of 3 or 4 committees that it goes through.
And that helps sort out so you get the best bill in the long run?
It's usually a much better bill by the time it's gone through all those committees. And that's why when you get to the end at those conference committees, and sometimes there's 20, 30 bills in the omnibus bill.
Right.
But you've probably heard the bill 2 or 3 times by the time you got there. So pretty much everybody on the conference committee has a pretty good idea of what all those bills are about.
Oh yeah, because sometimes the people get the impression that you're being handed this big bill and you need to vote on it the next day, and
you've never heard any of it before.
And that's probably not the case.
No, the only thing is if they changed it in the conference committee in any way, because they can still amend it there.
Right.
And if there's been changes, they might not want to point out what those changes are if they think that might lose them a vote or something.
Right. And then I've got a number of areas that we talked ahead of time that you're going to be working on, and maybe we can go through some of those before we run out of time. First of all, you referenced the opioid bill. Did I say that right? Opioid.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
It's a hard one.
I've been saying it a lot, so now I got it.
Yeah, you got it now. Yeah, you have to once get it in your head. Opioid.
And to remember there's an I on both sides of the O.
Right. And you have to pronounce them. Maybe that'll help. Okay, can you tell us about what you want to see done in that area, and what already's been done?
We passed the Opioid Epidemic Response Advisory Bill last session. And that collects $20 million a year from the drug manufacturers in the state. And it also set up a council, which has a lot of members that will decide how that money will be spent. And I am on that advisory council. There's 2 senators and 2 House members, one from each party.
Right.
So we've met a number of times, and we have to get our recommendations to the Legislature by March. So we've been working hard on that. But there's things in that bill that, as I said, human error and stuff that we need to work on. So I need to update that bill. One of the things was we wanted to spend a couple $100,000 a year on naloxone.
Oh, right.
To make sure, which is the antidote to the opioid overdose. And so we wanted that to go to one of the nonprofits working on distributing and training for naloxone. And somehow it got written as 200,000 a biennium, so they only got 100,000 each year. So I need to correct that.
Right.
And then, because that's why our death rate has dropped in Minnesota, because just as many people are overdosing and just as many people are developing a substance use disorder, but fewer are dying, and I believe it's because we've done such a good job of distributing naloxone.
That's a plus.
Yeah. So we're saving lives, but we're not making much headway on solving the issue. Fewer prescriptions are being written, and there's less, they're writing fewer prescriptions for less amounts. So there's less prescription drugs out there, but unfortunately the illegal synthetic, like fentanyl and stuff, are out there and are making up the difference. But I also need to add, I'd like to add a couple members from the Black community. I would like, hopefully one from an African immigrant and one from a Native American,
Ah.
not a Native American, a black person born in the United
Okay.
States. Because we have diverse people on the council, but we don't have people there specifically to represent those communities. And we do have one from both tribes, and we have, so we have, yeah. So I think that's an imbalance.
Oh,
on the-
right.
And they are hit particularly hard by this issue. Right now, the Somali community's having a lot of problems with opioids. And so I'd like them to be part of the voting. And unfortunately, the way the bill was written, the only way we can add them is legislatively. So I need to add that.
Sure.
The members get an honor, they get mileage
Okay.
to go to the meetings, and like the next one's in Buffalo.
Sure.
The previous last month we were in Rochester. We've been to Monoman, you know, and we try to do half of them out of state
Okay.
and half of them in the metro area.
Sure.
And we want to save the metro area ones for while we're in session.
Right.
So there's a lot of mileage and some some Monoman, some of us got hotel rooms, but and there's daycare paid. But some of these people are from like they're not from wealthy.
Oh, right, right.
You know, and so I'd like to add an honorarium because for $100, just because they have to leave their job, and some of them don't have vacation time and stuff like that. And so I'd like everybody to I don't want people to leave the committee because they can't afford to
And then
be
you
part of it.
lose that input.
Right, like the people who work in, we have somebody who's a person in recovery from opioid addiction. I have no idea what her profession is, or if she even has an income, or he. I don't remember who it is offhand. And you know, but the doctors and the attorneys and stuff, I'm not so worried about, but that are on the committee. But we just neglected. Most committees, you get a per diem or an honorarium.
Oh, yeah, right.
And this one doesn't, and we forgot that. So I'd like to add that. And let's see, what else? Oh, and we're finding that people who get prescriptions for naloxone, that their life insurance companies are cutting them off.
Oh, weird.
Because I guess they think they're at risk of overdosing from, you know, whereas most of them are getting it because of a loved one.
Because of someone they know that they want to make sure.
But I need to put something in there to protect them for their life insurance benefits. And the other thing, with all these naloxone kits we're handing out, the cheapest form is to do the naloxone serum with syringes. Well, apparently it's not legal to be handing out these syringes. We've been handing out since 2014. So I need to make that
make that legal.
yeah, and I'm not sure if we really need to have a law outlawing syringes. I mean, I think that people having them is really not a big deal. It's I don't know, I'll have to talk to some more people about that.
And then I think the next one I've got is the home health care agency that we've referenced.
Yeah, I need to talk to, like I said, what they come up with out of that working group, and see if we can work with DHS and the people in the community who actually work in healthcare, and see if we can come up with some legislation to help them out.
Yeah, because there's a real shortage of workers.
And there's and people who need somebody in their home are just, I heard a story where the family member was getting irate and quite angry because they couldn't keep anybody to keep coming. Yeah. And, it's pretty disruptive on that family too. Right. And then another one was a woman, she wants to bring her baby home from the hospital, but they need a pediatric nurse that can come in and do certain cares. But there's a shortage and they can't find one. Yeah. So they're spending, they have insurance, so that we are spending a lot of money to keep that baby in the hospital unnecessarily because they can't find a nurse for the home care to do the pediatric care that needs to be done. So it's a problem all the way around. And I'm working also with SEIU, the union, who represents some of these people too, because They did get a raise,
Uh-huh.
negotiated, but then DHS didn't increase the reimbursement. So then the providers are sitting there going, and we have the added in problem like in Minneapolis, minimum wage goes
Right.
to $15 an
Right.
hour. Well, if the providers of home care in Minneapolis have to pay $15 an hour, and the reimbursement from
Right.
DHS
Is less, right.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's considerably less than
Right.
$15 an hour. How are they going to cover
Yeah.
that and be able to retain their workers? So there's a lot of issues around that, and I'm in the middle of it.
Right. And then you said there's a task force for home health care?
Right,
Okay.
that involves, there's no legislators on it. It's
Okay.
primarily people who actually work in it.
Oh, that's
And they're
important.
supposed, I talked to one of the assistant commissioners, and he said that he saw a document come across his desk, but he hasn't had a chance to read it. So he's going to let me know what they've come up with, because I would just as soon have them figure it out than me have to
right,
figure
right.
it all out. So if we can figure out what to do and work with DHS and the union, and let's make this work, because it's so much better for the individual to be able to stay in their home
all the way around,
and
right.
and it's so less expensive than being in a nursing home or hospital, or it's just better for everybody all the way around. So we need to make this work better. The other issue that I'm excited about is the Liberian refugee
Oh, right, right.
immigration fairness bill that went
Yeah.
through, thanks to our Congress people. And so if a Liberian who is here, has been here since 2014, November 20th of 2014, and they can apply for a green card, but they have to do it before December 20th of 2020. So they have this year
To do it.
Yes, so you can't delay. They have to apply for that green card by next December 20th. And then once they've been here with a green card for 5 years, they can apply for citizenship. So there's a path to citizenship
finally.
now. Finally, yes. And this applies also to their adult children and,
Sure.
And minors and so on. So
Yeah, and you have a large Liberian group in
we
Brooklyn
do.
Park, Brooklyn Center.
And we love them. So
Yeah.
we want them to stay here. We were really upset.
Oh,
And
right.
speaking of home care, a lot of them work in health
You're
care.
right, you're right.
So this community is, we need them. And they're a great part of our community. The only restrictions that are still in place for the citizenship is if you have a criminal record. That still will get in your way of getting your
Sure.
green card and stuff. But most of our Liberians don't. They're good citizens in
Right.
our community. So
Okay, and then immigration, in the area of immigration, getting driver's licenses for undocumented people has been a contentious issue.
But it's needed.
Yeah.
We passed it in the House, but we couldn't get it going in the Senate. But it's so important. It makes our roads safer.
Oh, yes.
Because then they've had the training
Right.
and the written and the driving test, and they also then have to have insurance.
Oh,
so
right.
it gets a lot of the uninsured off the road because, and a lot of our our immigrants work in the ag communities where there isn't transportation.
No, there isn't
So-
a bus to take out to the
Right,
farmer's field.
Right, so they have to be driving.
Right.
And so it just makes it safer and it makes more sense. And it also allows them to take their children for more health care, for educational opportunities, for a lot of them they can do extracurricular activities then because their parents can drive them,
sure.
but otherwise they can't.
Yeah.
So it's just better for everybody, and it increases the income of the people who have transportation.
Oh,
so,
right.
And most of our immigrant population are working and paying taxes.
Right,
So
right.
they're contributing, and this just makes them be able to drive legally.
Yeah.
So they don't have to always worry about being pulled over and.
Right.
I mean, there's enough stress acclimating to a new country without having to worry
Right.
about that. So I strongly support it, and it needs to happen yesterday. So I hope we can. I don't know that we can get it through the Senate. for some reason they're hooked on, they're here illegally, so why should we give them a legal document?
Yeah.
And that just they can't get past that.
Right.
So it's disappointing.
Yeah, how many years has that been coming up?
Since I've been in there.
Yeah, it was,
And I'm
so
sure
for
it was
11,
before that.
Right, yeah, because I know it seems that going back a long time.
Right. And just like the healthcare issues, you know, which is the other area we talked
Right.
about that we haven't addressed, and that's, well, we did the reinsurance, which was very expensive. We took over $500 million out of the Healthcare Access Fund, and for that money, people who get individual insurance products,
Right.
like farmers, people who have small businesses, people who aren't part of a group insurance, are right now paying very high amounts for, I think I hear like $600 to $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right. So what this reinsurance did, for example, was cut their premiums down by about 20%. So they saved $120 to $200 a month,
Right.
which is nice. But for $500 million for this small population, it's a very small group of people. And it's people who don't qualify for Minnesota Care.
Right.
So they generally are, I don't know the income limit, but they're making, well, the reason the farmers get hit is because their actual net take home is probably 20 to 30,000.
Right.
But they have all those assets.
Right.
So they're listed at 100,000 or
Right.
more. So that's how they end up having to pay these high premiums.
Right.
And you know, I want them to have insurance, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
think the governor's proposal for the One Care, which would expand Minnesota Care to anybody could buy into it, I think is a much more reasonable option.
Way to do it.
Right. Or I would like to see Minnesota, I strongly support the Minnesota healthcare plan that Senator John Marty has put together.
Oh, right.
And that's a comprehensive single payer plan that would essentially everybody could go to anywhere for care, and everybody would pay a premium
Right.
by what their income is, and it would actually be cheaper for everybody in the long run.
Now, not everybody knows who represents them in the legislature. You seem to think they should, but not necessarily.
Right.
What's going to be the easiest way for them to find out who their senator is and who their House of Representatives person is?
Well, if you go to senate.mn, or I'm not sure what the House one is, but it's senate.mn, and there's a list of all the kind of a menu.
Okay.
And you can pick who represents me. Click on that, and it'll give you a thing to put your address in, and it'll tell you who your state senator is, your state representative, who your who your congressman is, and who your 2 state senators are.
So you can easily find out, because sometimes people are stopped by the point that they don't know where to go.
Yeah, just Google it.
Okay.
And you can also follow a bill on that same site.
Oh, okay.
Or if you go to the picture of if you say you want to go to the senators, and you click on the picture of the senator, you'll get the, you can click on authored bills.
Oh, and then you'll know what's happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it does help to keep up with, if you're interested in a particular area, to keep up with what's happening in the legislation.
Right. Or if you know the bill's number, you can just plug in the number and it'll come up. Or if you just plug in a few words, like the example on solar energy, it'll come up with all the bills related to that. Yeah.
So there are easy ways to do that.
Right.
So we'll hand people some easy ideas, especially.
Or they can just call me and I'll tell.
Right, and we've got your phone number up, so we've got a source of help for you to get involved. Because we're always telling people, get involved, be part of what's happening.
And the more people involved, the stronger our democratic system is, and the stronger our state is. We only get in trouble when people quit paying attention.
That's true. That's true. Now, What's the most effective way for somebody to reach you? What's the best way for people to interact with you?
I think probably the most effective is to email me
Okay.
or call my office. I have a legislative assistant named David Gross, and he screens all my calls and picks up all my voicemails and makes sure that I get the people I need to call back, or he'll call you and set up a meeting. I love meeting face to face with people, you know, one-on-one.
Right.
I'm more than happy to do that right here in the community.
Oh,
you know,
sure.
if you want to meet at Caribou or something,
Oh,
you
sure.
know, I'm more than happy to do that. Or we meet a lot at Panera. And
Well, that's good for people to know. They don't have to go all the way to St. Paul to...
no, and it's easier to park around here than it is at the
Definitely,
Capitol.
definitely.
And around the Senate building. So, but if you want to come and see my office and talk to me there, I love company. Like I said, I like to hear from people in my
Oh,
district, and I don't
definitely.
hear enough from them, I think. That's my biggest complaint.
Okay, we'll keep telling people on our show to be sure to contact your legislators.
There you go.
And your city council members too, because
Oh, yeah.
some people probably do that very often, right? But a lot of people kind of shy away from it or aren't sure if they should or whatever.
Yeah, there's about 20 people that consistently contact me,
Yeah.
and I love hearing from them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not telling them
Oh,
to
right,
quit.
right.
I'm just saying, but there's not a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you take the time to contact you, then you're going to have a large impact.
Exactly. And I mean, I get maybe 3 actual snail mail letters a session. So boy, do they have an impact. Because not many people take the time
That's
to actually
true.
write me a letter.
That's true.
You know, or even a postcard. So I get lots of email. And if you're going to email me, do a unique one.
Okay.
Those copied ones from that. There's like a cause we'll send out and I'll get like 30 of the exact same
okay.
email. From
Right. Yeah, send your own thoughts.
Yeah, they're not real impactful other than I know there's 30 people in my
Right,
district
right.
who care about that issue, but it's much more impactful individually if it's
Right.
it's something you wrote out in your own words.
Right, somehow it affects you
Yes.
will be more impactful.
Stories really
right,
make a
right.
difference.
Yeah, because that you can use as you're helping other legislators learn about the impact of a bill that you're carrying.
It's one of my strategies to pass a bill is to tell a real life story about it, and that is very effective.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your time and your thoughts and ideas with our audience out there. We'll encourage you, if you any of these issues that we talked about, you can certainly call Senator Eaton or send an email to her, and she'd be happy to respond. And if you're in District 40, particularly do so, right?
Exactly, and the more I hear from people.
We're glad you joined us, and we'll hope to see you next week. Bye.
Bye.